All right, we're going to talk about Spoon's take on aborting the Down syndrome kids in utero, of course, not outside the womb, none of that stuff. Now, Spoon's ideas, Spoon's opinions generally stem from this article, which I've seen him share before, called "The Raven's Call on the Jesse and Ashley Ridgway Down syndrome abortion scandal." For those of you who are not familiar with this, basically. Um, a couple decided that they were going to publicize the them aborting a a child with who potentially had Down syndrome. Um, and the purpose of this article, which is allegedly from the right wing, is to convince you that this was a positive thing. Now, my issue with this is that we have it's not just one. We have several reports of doctors telling parents that their children are going to have Down syndrome or some other deformation or malady or mutation where the child won't survive birth. It'll just get rid of this one, try again. And the parents, for whatever reason, decide they're not going to do that, and lo and behold, the child ends up just fine. No Down syndrome, no risk of horrible heart defects, nothing like that. Um, this article, however, does not cover any of that. It presumes, in fact, that the child will, in fact, come out with will in fact be a Downy, and you will suffer all of the maladies, all of the inconveniences, all of the horrific traits of having to suffer through having a child with Down syndrome, and all of the you know all the inconveniences, all of the extra costs, all of the anxiety and costs to loved ones and family, the burden they will be on society at large. All of these things are brilliantly um, brought to the fore. And oh, yes, parent attention distribution, healthy family dynamic versus the glass child family dynamic. Um, Actually, I've sort of experienced the one on the right, and it's fine, to be honest. You believe it or not, if you have a problem child at home, being the one not getting all the attention is not always a negative. Just saying. Um, it goes through all of the prolonged consequence of someone not being able to care for themselves in the 40s and 50s and doesn't even have the mind of a child. All of this, many express anecdotal evidence of individuals being utterly drained and exhausted from a decades long burden, so on and so forth. Now, the problem with this argumentation is, in my opinion, not necessarily based on morality. For me, this is an issue with pattern recognition. And I'm not omnipotent. I'm not able to recall massive amounts of data and all of the articles I have read um, concerning what I essentially deem to be antinatalist policies, antinatalist sentiment. Um, what I'm basically basing my opinion on is time and experience and pattern recognition. And I'm going to give Spoon a little bit of grace on this one because he's a younger gentleman, and he probably remembers the song of Skynet when turning on your internet modem the way I remember my grandparents' rotary phone. So it might just be a case of inexperience or the inability to see this particular pattern in question. And the particular pattern in question that I would like to draw attention to, again, I'm not omnipotent, so forgive the source. We're going to go over to Grok for a minute. We're going to go over to Grok because I wanted to run a little thought experiment on it, and we're just going to go through that. All right, give me 1 second. So, for the sake of this video, I wanted to analyze the argumentation style of the article, and Grok breaks it down. Um, I would say pretty much accurately, whether you wanted to like its conclusions or not. Now, most of this I'm not really interested in because it's talking about the setup, it's talking about the tone, it's talking about the critiques, and I understand all of that. I was surprised to say that it said pathos was the strongest appeal. Um, Logos with selective evidence, ethos as an unflinching truth teller, um, reframing and reversal. Like I don't really care for all of this. I'm not talking about the strengths of the argumentation or the weaknesses and critiques of the style. What did hit me hard um was the overall assessment was that it does sound right wing. It does sound like it comes from the, facts over feelings, the very blunt, um, data driven analysis, graphic imagery, that all of this um, very Supermanish, very to use a term from Spoon's own latest video, the glory of Rome argument, which I again, it has its virtues, it has its place. I'm not arguing that having policies for the glory of Rome is even wrong or a bad thing, but we need to be careful with this because just because it has the tone of what we know to have been true previously does not necessarily mean that it's going to be for our benefit overall. Now, my issue here is that it was this question that I posed to it, or uh, this prompt. I asked Grok to search up the most common and popular articles for other innately antinatalist topics like abortion, climate change, global warming, feminism, and even broad GDP/immigration rhetoric. And I wanted them to compare those argument style to this article. And as you can see, key examples of common/popular articles identified. The Guardian says, The Guardian posts an article, Should I Have Children? Weighing Parenthood Amid the Climate Crisis. Personal/reflective form of a parent/farmer. 4 in 10 young people hesitant due to climate fears. Engages ethical questions about bringing children in a suffering world. Having kids increases global warming, but don't blame the parents. Acknowledges carbon footprint, but redirects blame. Pieces on climate anxiety shaping family planning. We need Vox in 2019 said we need to talk about the ethics of having children in a warming world. The Atlantic said a world without children. um, and it goes for abortion/selective abortion. The last children of Down syndrome. In feminism, we had several Guardian pieces finding on the joy of child-free life, critiques of biological clock pressure as patriarchal, normalizing voluntary childlessness as feminist resistance to pronatalist expectations, and we even have immigration articles that say that celebrate slower population growth for per capita or ecological benefits. These types of articles are not uncommon from the left, and they all have this similar argumentation for antinatalist skew. And the only real difference here Was Parker the Ravens call had a more combative, unapologetically harsh, and sometimes crude slash graphic and judgmental tone, which again we typically associate with being correct. And for good reason. There's a good reason why we would look at this tone and language and associate that with being correct, because we've had to do that. Oh. However, when it comes to most of this, I had to re-clarify the parameters just a bit. I didn't care for his tone or bluntness, and I wanted to focus on the nature of the trade-off argumentation, because that's really what I had cued in on when I read that article and had compared it in time to so many articles that I had engaged with before, and how similar it was to the other arguments that were ultimately antinatalist in practice that have harmed society long term despite the promise of short term pleasure and convenience. Which I need to add is essentially what they're arguing for when they say, "Oh, having a down Down syndrome child will cost so much more money in this and that and so much of the other." And so the structure parallels in other antinatal arguments. This same trade-off architecture, vivid, quantifiable, and or describable near-term burdens versus more diffuse long-term societal replenishment costs, appears across several prominent lines of argument that functionally discourage or deprioritize higher birth rates. These arguments typically deliver short-term individual or partial societal relief, autonomy, lower immediate costs, moral/emotional consistency, redirected resources, while contributing in aggregate to sustained below replacement fertility and its documented downstream pressures on advanced societies. 1. Climate emissions trade off arguments. With a short term side of the trade off, the individual avoids contributing additional emissions load, gains more consistency with environmental values, and experiences relief from climate anxiety or guilt. Personal consumption footprint can remain lower without child related expansion. Long term societal side. Sustained lower fertility accelerates demographic contraction. Fewer future workers and innovators reduce the tax base and human capital available for adaptation, mitigation, infrastructure, and technological solutions precisely when aging populations increase demand for elder care and entitlements. The short-term environmental relief is traded against long-term civilizational capacity to manage the problem. The structure mirrors Parker's. A concrete attributable burden is used to justify non procreation, the countervailing long term horizon value, as additional humans as future problem solvers, is treated as secondary or uncertain. The same thing, again, the architecture is paralleled for feminist child free autonomy trade off arguments. 3. Economic, demographic, and immigration trade off arguments. Again, the trade off is structurally identical. Short term optimization around current resource allocation or labor supply is prioritized. The long term requirement to maintain a stable or growing population pyramid capable of supporting complex modern societies is treated as adjustable via other levers: immigration, efficiency gains, and technology. In short, the shared characteristics of trade off reasoning: present bias in cost accounting, intergenerational externality framing, substitution assumption. The resources, attention, or human capital saved by lower natality are assumed to be redirectable to higher value uses. Individual to aggregate scaling, micro level optimization, what is best for families' finances, this person's autonomy, this generation's emissions, so on and so forth. In each domain, the argument delivers or promises long term relief or gain, avoided family burden, reduced personal environmental load, expanded individual freedom, immediate labor/GDP support, while contributing to the same underlying demographic pattern: fertility persistently below level needed to replace the population without large-scale immigration or other adjustments. Parker's specific application to Down syndrome screening is narrower and more explicitly eugenic utilitarian than most mainstream climate or feminist versions, but the underlying trade-off architecture, vivid avoidance of present and near future costs versus underaccounted long horizon societal reproduction is the same. It is the same. And this is the pattern that I've noticed, or that I had noticed when I went over Parker's article. And I immediately tuned into this and I'm like, I'm just going to say from a wisdom's perspective, from the fact that I've already seen this so many times before, and from the fact that I have already acknowledged in societal practice that doctors are willing to lie or be misled by test results to tell parents that their children will be Down syndrome when they don't turn out to be, this is not something that we should, on the right, be entertaining. It's not a wise practice. It is not something that we should be promoting or be given any credence to. And that's not a moral argument. This is not saying, oh, this is because, having someone that's unsuitable for the glory of Rome is bad. Look, we can all agree that a useless lout is a useless lout. The consequences of enacting a policy to address this issue, this micro issue in specificity, is going to be a net negative every single time. Every single time we do this, every single time that we entertain not promoting the propagation of the species, whether it's to address Down syndrome, whether it's to address the economy, whether it's to address feminist ideology, whether it's to address the freaking environment or climate change or whatever it is, every time we do this, it's a negative. It's always something that harms society in the long term. If you think that's a moral argument, let me know in the comments. Because I'm sorry, every time we've done this, it ends poorly. And I just had to show you why, when I look into the past and I see, okay, what is it that you think, if we implemented policies that accommodate the desires and whims of the Jesse and Ashley Ridgway article written by Mr. What's-His-Face, let me scroll up here, Mr. Richard Parker, if we actually enacted policies that addressed the issues that he brings to the fore, what do you think the effect will be on society, and do you actually think it'll do us any good? Because I'm here to tell you, we've already done this so many times, and we've seen that this. Oh my God! From a societal structure, they've had the Cosmo Girl phenomenon, where women would straight up make shit up in magazines to make women think that feminism was going to be oh so free and liberating for them. We've had literal studies and reports and articles uh, from colleges and educational institutions that said, "Oh, we really need to curtail the growth rate, or we need to fix climate change." So many authoritative sources telling us to be more antinatal for the greater good, and every single time we have adopted those positions at a policy level, they have fucked us over. Every single time. And I just need to ask, what makes you think it's going to be different this time? Have a good day, everyone. That's the video. I look forward to your responses. I look forward to your views in the comment section. Goodbye.